All right, good evening. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, what? Happy New Year. Happy New Year, there we go. Go ahead and get that up here. My volume good in the back? I'm going to turn that up. Can you hear me? I don't want to yell that we're not doing high enough. Is that good? I'm disappointed that I can't make fun of the Bears today. All right. We're going to get started. So if you have some side conversations, I'll let you finish those after. But Super Bowl favorites. Who thinks Kansas City will win? 2 people, San Francisco. 2 people don't care. There you go. Who was excited that Green Bay got embarrassed? There you go. Who was sad? Awesome. So welcome. We're excited to kick off another year. We are already planning some of the topics that we have going on this year. And we'll talk a little bit more about those later on because I need some of your help. But we got a great list of topics and speakers that we want. So we're excited for another year. But the reason that we started this group was to bring together investors of all different levels to provide relevant real estate education in an environment where you can grow your personal network without having to deal with different sales gurus and stuff throwing their different programs down your neck. I'm a little bit rusty. I feel like I haven't been up here for a couple of months. That Christmas break was really long. Some benefits about being in the group. The biggest thing is just networking with experienced investors. I don't remember where I've seen it, but your net worth is your net worth. So they say that your income's very closely related to the 5 people that you hang out with. So look at the type of people that you hang out with, and that's probably a good indicator of the direction that you're heading in. I know for me, when I got started, I was part of another group, and some of the good relationships I have with investors that have done a ton were folks that I met in that group. So obviously, the education through the monthly speakers, great place to get connected with accountants and CPAs and property managers and contractors. Good place to get deals done. And again, we don't do any sales in this group. Disclaimer, the material and content presented today, this is for educational purposes only. Most of our speakers, with the exception of tonight, are not attorneys. Most of our speakers do not have any professional certifications or schooling or anything on what they're talking. They're just talking from their experience. So before you do anything that they recommend or share, vet them out, talk to your own circle of people, and basically just do your own due diligence. I mean, it's real estate investing. There's always risk. If there wasn't risk, half of the people in here would be bored and they wouldn't do it anyway, and you wouldn't make money at it. So just make sure that you do your due diligence and vet it. Regarding our vendors, don't yell at me if you don't like one of our vendors. They are paid vendors. They've asked us to sponsor the group. Some of them we have approached because we've used them, but some of our vendors have approached us, and they've paid to be in the group. So do your own due diligence with them. I'm not going to guarantee their products or services. Just like you would with anyone else that you want to use, do your homework on them. So, real quick, stand up if you are comfortable. Tom has the mic. What are your 2020 real estate goals, and how can the group help you achieve those? Real estate goals. John.
I don't know, I'm loud.
Okay.
I'll take the mic.
Yeah, take the mic so the Facebook people can.
All right, so I've been wholesaling for almost 2 years now, and this year I decided to build up the rental portfolio. So doing my 3rd purchase right now and looking at the 4th one in the next couple of weeks. So how you can help me is bring me good rental deals, not crappy rental deals.
What cities?
Pretty much everything except for I don't love Gary, but I just bought one, just did my first Gary deal, and it's turned out to be really profitable. So again, if it never works, then we're all good. So in Lake County, I really don't love quarters.
Awesome. Who else has a real estate goal they'd be willing to share? Aaron.
How's everyone doing? Right now, I've got for 2020, actually looking to try to double the portfolio. Right now, we've got 33 units, so actually looking for a deal of about 30 units buildings. So, if anybody has any information, they're willing to pass that along. It'd be great.
30-unit building for Aaron. Dave, you look like you're itching to share a goal.
Wasn't, but I will. I don't know if I can have a mic. All right, David Overman. Hello, how's everybody doing? All right. Okay, awesome. So I'm at least looking to do what I did this year, at least 50 fix and flips, and I'm also looking to get about 20 to 25 rental properties going on. So if you have deals right now, we're all pretty hungry. So if you're out there marketing, get some deals, come and talk to me, get me on your list. I'm ready to buy. All right?
How many vacations?
I don't know. Depends on how many houses I get. We'll find out.
I'm Ralph, and I think he just answered all I needed to hear. He was, we are trying to do more properties. We've been doing actually just one a year, but we're looking to flip maybe much more. But we do find a lot of property at times, and sometimes we don't flip them. So we do find property. So if you're looking for something, like I talked to a friend over here, lady over here, we have properties. You're looking for them. We have them in Gary, Porter County. It doesn't make no difference. All in Northwest Indiana. We find properties, and if we're not going to flip them, we're willing to give them to another investor to make some money off of them.
Hello, Jim Schneider from Chicago suburbs. We got a lot of friends that are looking to go in with me on buying multifamily properties, specifically in East Chicago and Hammond. So if you hear of any multis in East Chicago or Hammond, we'd love to hear about them. We do have our own money, but we're also looking for lenders for properties.
Cool. Maybe one or two other people. I'm not going to twist any arms.
I raised my hand for you.
Yep, you're up.
It's actually for Craig.
One of our goals is to increase the size of our team here locally, basically Gary. So we have our property management company, so we're looking to add another property manager to the team. If you know of anybody that's interested, no experience necessary, actually prefer no experience, looking to possibly add another project manager to our team to oversee all of the rehabs that we're doing. And am I missing anything? I think that was it.
My goal for 2020 is to flip or wholesale 12 properties. So the only thing that really holds me, that's probably been holding me back, is lending, finance. I finance my own property, my own deals. So in order for me to grow, I need to partner up with somebody who's looking to be a private lender or perhaps a partner, an equity partner.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. My goal is to offload all of my single-family rentals and roll that money into something bigger. Because bigger is more fun. I just showed like the whole presentation tonight. If you guys are not on the Facebook group page, it can be found under NWI Investor Group. Great location to ask questions between the meetings. We have people that are posting. Someone today asked for an attorney in Illinois for an issue that they have out there. People are always looking for contractors in various cities, various trades. We've had a couple of good discussions about, hey, what should I do with this rental, or how should I handle this issue with a flip? So just a good place to continue to connect and learn between the different meetings. We also post on there any special events that we have, and we are planning a couple of weekend or Saturday events this year. We'll wait till the weather warms up a little bit. Plus, there's always updates about our monthly group on the Facebook page. So It's Invest NWI Investor Group. So if you're not part of that and you're active on Facebook, you want to join that. Membership, we kept the prices the same for the membership this year. It's $120 for an individual, $160 for a couple. That helps defray the cost of the room, the food, the website that we have. Obviously, if you don't want to be a member, you can pay $20 a month if you come. So it's a huge discount if you do become a member. A couple of perks, and probably one of the biggest ones that people appreciate is, you can tell by the size of the room tonight, there's not a lot of people here. A bunch of people called me, they were sick, their kids are sick, they're, the cold, whatever, they couldn't be here. But they have the ability to watch it live on Facebook, or if that doesn't work, a lot of people watch the videos on the website, over the weekend or whatever. We have all of the videos going back to 2017. So there's access to all of that as well. Then every other month we get a new Think Realty magazine. We have a bunch out there for the members from previous months, but every other month we bring the new editions in. So lots of benefits in that. Anthony, come on up. This is one of my favorite parts of the meeting. This is where someone local in our area is going to talk about a project they did. Usually it's a fix and flip, could be like a burr. Kind of set up like the TV shows where they talk about how awesome it is, but then they get it all done in 30 minutes. But they don't tell you about the reality of all the issues they come up with. So the goal of these is to be, a little bit more realistic. So this is a property, a portfolio of 4 units in Maryville that Anthony was in charge of selling this summer. I should look like that. Hello, perfect.
My name is Anthony Spangler. I'm from Lansing, Illinois. I live in Dyer. I focus on brokerage only. I don't own any properties, but hopefully soon. I broker multifamily apartment buildings, anywhere from a 4-unit to big. I think the biggest deal right now that we're working on is 380 units. So, how do I
Hit the right button. Oh,
do I not hit button?
I told you I was rusty.
Anyways, so I work for a company called Horvath and Tremblay. They are a national company. They broker in 41 states. They are actually one of the best retail brokerages, triple net, single tenant buildings. But I focus on apartments. So does anybody know these buildings or driven past them, or does anybody own them? I guarantee you, a few people that own them. Adrian and Justin own these two. So we got 32 units in the deal. We have 8 buildings, all 4 units. Usually a scattered portfolio is usually not the best deal. Those are always the toughest to sell. On the lending side, it's usually tougher also, that it's not a standalone deal. But, when you're a scrappy broker like me, sometimes you can take whatever you get and, you try. So. This was the list price, 2.4. The closing price was 2.3, $71,000 per unit. There's our NOI up the top, $235,000 after all expenses, and the list cap rate was a 9.8, which was pretty steep. To get a multifamily deal around here nowadays at 9 cap is pretty rare. And we got a heavy unit mix of 3 beds, which is also rare, and the tenants pay all utilities, which is rare. So it's a really juicy deal. The units had all new roofs and were pretty much all rehab. Justin and Adrian actually know the seller, and they were aware of the quality of units. This is the actual purchase price. Sorry for the small print. And that is the actual debt on the property. The deal was funded at a 3.7% rate from Casey Singleton. He's a guy that I've been working with for a couple of years. So he's a good guy to get your application in if you're looking to do a big deal. This is the big number here. Cash on cash return, 26.62%. So the goal here is to use a commercial loan, which you can leverage your capital to make more money than you would do on a cash deal. So instead of a 9 cap, you're basically buying at a 26 cap, which is great. These are the rents. I thought we were under market a little bit. I know Aaron had some bigger rents. I know Justin and Adrian, I think, had one unit that was bigger than most of the units. So there's a little bit of a value add also.
What's your average rent for the 2-bed and the 3-beds?
The average rent for the 3-bed was roughly $950 to $1050. Some of the long-term tenants. This was actually majority Section 8 also. Lake County pays a pretty good chunk for that. A lot of my deals are in lower income areas with Section 8, just because my markets are that, south suburbs, Northwest Indiana. I'm not in Wrigleyville or Lincoln Park, but we do have deals there. I focus more on the higher cap rate deals than the low cap rate deals. Here's some little information. Townhome style, which is rare. They're not small units, over 1,000 square feet. Would you say correct? They're 1,000 square feet, maybe? Maybe it's a little rich. Oh, okay.
Total square footage on the building was right around 5,000.
Okay, so over 1,000 square feet per unit, which is also rare. Tenants were in great, the units were in great shape. New windows. He was changing closet doors. He was, the kitchens was the only thing that wasn't redone. Here's a little bit of the expense information. He had a good deal on insurance as he owned 50, 60 properties. So per unit, it's pretty good. If you're under $2,000 per unit, pretty good. He did all his own maintenance also, and he was his own carpenter. So this guy was a great client to work for, to say the least. The only expense on utilities was the sewer, because they are responsible for water, electric, and gas for their own unit. There's a little bigger spread here. You can see kind of what the current rent. So there's a lot of, this was actually a 4-unit with 2s and 1s. This was the only building that was different. That was a little bit north of these properties, but they threw it in the deal also. Some pictures. Really nice units, which is also rare. Yeah. So, rent per square foot in Indiana is low. Basically, the story on Indiana is that you can buy a house with a loan and your rent is cheaper than renting or equal to. So that's why some people don't buy properties here. They'd rather be in the high rent areas, better credit score tenants, other things. So it's kind of a looked over market in general as far as the bigger institutional groups and the larger owners, which means it's good for you guys. You can pick up a 6-flat here and there, 4-unit, add some value. No more pictures, nice townhome, entrances back in front. There's the owner right there. Cool dude to work for. So here's a blow-up view. There's Whitcomb Street, 73rd place. This property down here is a 250 unit, which is actually under contract with a group, not me, but another group. So they're paying a really high price. So people are starting to look here, so you better buy now before it's all gone. This is the Jefferson Street property, 61st Avenue, a little bit north. So that was incorporated in the loan. A little info about Maryville. I don't know how accurate these are. There's autofills on the software we have, but it should be pretty accurate. Population growth is the #1 metric right now that everyone's using. And so guess what the net population growth is in Northwest Indiana for the next 10 years? Zero. So it's okay. But we are attached to a huge market with Chicago, which is the #1 industrial market, and the #1 area where high net worth individuals are moving to per capita in the whole country. So high rises, Amazon, supposedly Google, etc. And that's all I got. You got any questions, quick? Quick.
What do you mean when you say zero, like population growth, zero? It means the same amount of people going in, so amount of people going out? Okay.
Yes. So everyone thinks Indiana, population growth, but really, which is okay. Yeah. But
Kind of off topic, but why do you think that is? Because it feels like we're getting a lot of people from Illinois, so who's leaving?
People are leaving Lake County, going to other counties. People are going, Indianapolis, I believe, had several 100,000 people moving into it over the last couple of years. People even, moving back into the city. There's 40,000 units in development in the city of Chicago right now, new construction. People want to be on the north side, people want to be in Wrigley, people want to be in the park. They rather rent, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But we have a strong economy here, so don't worry.
What's the occupancy rate on those apartments?
It's different for every owner. These were close to 100%. I think when we were first on a contract, we had 2 vacancies. By the time we closed, which was about 3 months of due diligence, inspection, appraisals, then they were filled the day we closed. So we bought 100%. This was a great deal for this buyer. This is the most, the best deal on the buy side that I've seen that I've sold. Right?
I appreciated the high sale price.
Yeah, exactly. So you sold one and you got one more.
Any other questions?
And I have one deal available that I have 10 packs. I'm gonna put on the back and some cards.
You can talk about that later. So if you've done a project last year, you do one this year, and you want to share about the ins and outs of that, we definitely would appreciate that. Those are great buildings. That was a great package, and it sold a lot faster than I expected. But the big appeal, like you said, is the separate utilities. They pay their own NIPSCO, they pay their own water. Sewer is like $60 a month, and I pay garbage on mine. Did you have garbage on his? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I pay garbage is $60 and sewer was $60. That was the only thing I paid on that, and they take care of everything else. And being townhouse style is great because they all have, the bedrooms are all upstairs and they live downstairs, but you don't have another family living above you. So you don't get the calls, hey, they're too loud, hey, they're doing this, hey, they're smoking pot, and it's coming upstairs. So those buildings sell super, super fast, and if you track them in the last 6 months, the prices have gone from like $250 to over $300, which is super cool. Here's a list of future topics that I mentioned that we brainstormed. We're going to do a small multi-family. That would be stuff like 4, 5, 6 units up to maybe 10 to 15, something that all of us can buy fairly easily. Sheriff sale, online auctions, foundation issues, mold remediation, kitchen layout, design concepts, investing with IRAs, estimating rehab costs. Someone had posted that in the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, looking for a spreadsheet, so we're going to do something along the lines of that. Really looking for an investor that's been around for 15, 20 years, that bought before the recession, they seasoned that, made it through that, and then just kind of get their idea. So those are the ideas that we've come up with. I have some people in mind that can fill some of those spots, but this is where I need your help. If you know someone who buys a lot at the sheriff's sale, or if you know someone that does mold remediation, or the investor that's been around for a long time, and they're willing to talk or at least chat with me, send me an email to group@investnwi. I'll reach out to them, kind of explain what we need and what the expectations are, and if they're willing, we'll get them on the schedule. If you feel like there's a topic up there that you want to hear about, or if you know someone else that would like to talk and we can come up with something that's appealing to everybody, again, shoot me an email and I'll chat with them and we'll fill up the schedule with some good topics. I saw a lot of you trying to read Anthony's presentation. He had a lot of numbers that were pretty small there. If you want that, I'll email you his PowerPoint. Is that okay with you? So just email that same thing and I'll shoot that out to you tomorrow. Awesome. So this is a great topic, and I thought about it because we had a contractor file a stupid mechanics lien on us. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's dealt with stupid liens. This person tried to lien us for work that wasn't even completed yet, which will be interesting. But I have people, they post in the Facebook group, they ask me all the time, hey, I'm having this issue with a contractor. they didn't do the work, or they left and stole material, or they did this, they did that. And then also contractors, hey, what do I do? This person didn't pay me. Who do you know who I can? So I'm like, let me just get Mike in here. Mike knows a lot about this stuff. So Mike's going to talk about both sides of, if you're a contractor, how to work with homeowners and how to take care of those issues. And then most of us that are hired contractors, how to deal with ones that aren't ones that you would probably hire again. All right, you're set up. Hold questions to the, how do you want to do questions? During it or just wait? You have a lot of good content.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
If you've got a pressing question on one of the topics that you want to get to, just raise your hand. Let's not, play the point. We'll try and get through the slides. It's not a ton of them. We will do questions at the end, of course, but if you got something that you really can't wait, just raise your hand. Get to them when we can. Okay, so as Adrian said before, today is for informational purposes only. Nothing I tell you today is going to be specific to any one of the cases that you may or may not have in mind, so please don't call me in a week and say your advice did not work. This is not advice, this is more generic. If you have a very specific question, come talk to me afterwards. We can go through it then. I don't think everybody in the group wants to hear your specific questions. So I'm going to try and do this as generally as possible, but again, this is for educational purposes only. Yeah. Too tall for the microphone thing, apparently. All right. Okay. Hiring a contractor. Who do we know how to hire? Unless you know the contractor, you're probably going to hop on Google and say, I don't know who to hire. I need a roofer. I need a plumber. I need a whatever the case may be. You have resources at your hand. If you're a part of the Facebook group that Adrian mentioned, use it. Use Angie's List. Use Invest Northwest Indiana. Use Google reviews. Use Yelp. For me, if I need something done, I don't go any further than our Facebook page. Reason being, bought a house in June. 6 days later, the air conditioning unit went out. July 3rd, 100 degrees outside, no air. My wife's 6 months pregnant. It did not go well for me. Eric Hoselman replaced it within 3 days. I had to tell him not to come out on the 4th of July. There are people like that who will help you. You just have to ask. Okay? A gentleman by the name of Simo did my drywall. 3 days later, charged me a great price. Got him from the Facebook page. If you need recommendations, they are there. These people have been used, tried, and tested. Use their resources. Don't just use Google. Okay? This is a great resource to find who you want and who you don't want. Who here wants a $500 off roofing coupon that I can get for you online? Right? You know what I'm talking about? You probably don't. People in this group have used different companies. Use those people as a resource. I cannot say that enough. Okay? In determining who to hire, let's say you get a recommendation, you meet with them, you like them, you want to make sure they're going to work for you. They have to be 3 things: licensed, bonded, insured. Why do they have to be licensed? Who's done work in Gary? Who's had work done in Gary and then later been cited for work that they did in the past? I've had a case where I had to defend a guy who did work 3 years ago. Gary found out it wasn't permitted. They wanted to tear the whole bathroom out. We made a deal. They didn't have to tear the bathroom out. But it does happen. You have to be a licensed contractor in Gary. Otherwise, you cannot get a permit. If you don't get a permit, you get cited for working without a permit. And if it's 3 years later, don't be that guy. Don't call me and say they got cited for working without a permit because Gary is relentless. Other cities are the same. They want you to get a permit. They want you to be licensed. Also, your licensed contractors know the city's requirements. They understand what the city is looking for. And when you go to get that final inspection, if they didn't meet some of the criteria, they will have to fix it. That's on them. If you use someone who's not licensed in the city, I don't know what to tell you. Because the city's not going to pass the final inspection, and you're not going to have a working bathroom, a working electric, whatever the case may be. Make sure they're licensed in the city. They need to be bonded. You want to make sure the work is done correctly. In order to get a license in the city, you have to post a bond. The bond is there to make sure they do the work correctly. Obviously, it's a limited bond, but if something goes wrong and your contractor moves to Canada, the bond will remain. The bond company is there to make sure that the work is done correctly. It's not ideal to go after the bond, but it is there for your protection to make sure the work is done correctly. Finally, make sure they have insurance. What you don't want is for one of their employees or contractors to get hurt while they're working on your property, and then you, the owner, get a lawsuit in the mail. Make sure they have workman's comp. If an injured employee gets hurt on the job, their liability is limited generally to that workman's comp, to what they are going to be paid. You want to make sure that they are insured for general property damage. If the contractor burns your house down, you don't want to rely on your insurance. You want the contractor's insurance to pay for it. So those are the three things that you need to make sure they have: licensed, bonded, insured. That's the way you're going to make sure that you're protected when you're hiring a contractor. From the contractor's perspective, it's going to make you more hireable too. It's not a large expense. Just go the extra mile, get the, it's a little extra money, but it's going to make you a better, more appealing contractor. Okay, so you found a guy that you like. He's licensed, he's bonded, he's insured. Now what? You need an agreement. Do not come to me and say, I have an oral agreement, we're ready to go. You are not. Because what I don't want to have a conversation with you is, what is the agreement? And you're telling me, well, he's going to do A, B, C, and D. And the contractor says, no, he only hired me to A, maybe B. Now we have an issue. And I'm going to put this in front of a judge, and the judge is going to say, well, he says one thing, and she says the other thing. Now what? If you have a written contract, they can't do that. And both ways. If you're a contractor, you can't. I had a case where it was a painting job, and they said, no, you said you would paint the foundation. It said very specifically in the contract that you're not painting the foundation. That's a pretty easy one to figure out. Be specific. If your agreement is specific, you're going to make it very easy for me and very easy for a judge to rule in your favor. Things to include. Include a very detailed scope of work. Don't say you're going to roof the house. Say you're going to roof it with this material. Say you are going to roof it in this month of the year. What you don't want to do is sign a contract in July and say, I want to use, grade A material, and then they start work in December using grade D material. You need to be specific, because otherwise it can be left up for interpretation. And that makes my job very, very difficult. Okay? Include brand names. Include timelines. Obviously, no job can be detailed down to the day, but you can, within reason, state how long it should take. Okay? If you're working with contractors and they suggest it, and they say, look, it's going to take me a month to do a complete rehab. Fine. Put it in the agreement. You have 30 days to finish the agreement, subject to extension. You can always extend. What you don't want to do is complain to me that a contractor is taking too long, but your contract doesn't say how long they actually have, and so now we have a non-actionable issue. You think they've breached, they think they're doing it as best they can. If you put timelines in, I can present an argument that says something to the effect of, look, this was supposed to take 30 days, we're 6 months in. That's not reasonable, okay? So use timelines, even if they're estimated, as to how long things should take. Try not to do the full project should take a month. Try to do the flooring should take a week. The bathroom should take a week, something to that effect. Work with your contractor to make sure that it works with their timetable, but also your timetable. Allowances. I said to be specific about the brand names. If you want flooring that's $3 a square foot or more, put it in there. If you want, all-in-one primer paint, put it in there. You cannot be too specific in your agreements, and it only is going to protect you both on the contractor side and the consumer side in the end. Okay, so you've got a guy or girl, you've got a contract in place, you're ready to start working. Who is working on your property? Obviously, you know who the GC is. You hired them, you signed a contract with them, so you know who that is. Who is working for them? That's probably something you want to know. Why? You want to make sure the subs are licensed, bonded, insured. You want to make sure they have workman's comp. Check their reviews, okay? You got a GC that wants to use that real good roofing company, and you say, I don't really want them. Put it in the contract. Say, I don't want that roofing company to work on my house. They have a bad review. You have every right to do that. GC does not get to dictate who works on your house. If you have one who is unwilling to work with you, you probably need to find another one. Okay, we've got a contractor. We know who their subs are. Passed all the review tests. We're ready to start. Things to consider. Tracking progress. If we have deadlines and the deadline has blown, don't be a jerk about it. Just ask, hey, what's taking so long? They should give you a reasonable answer. Okay, not a big deal. It's going to take an extra week to do the flooring. Flooring was, the flooring materials weren't in stock. Obviously, that's a pretty good reason. Okay, I went on vacation for a week, not so much. Okay, so talk to them. Let them know what you expect. Keep track of those progresses. Set up deadlines. Please don't give your general contractor the full purchase or the full contract price day one. You want to make sure that work is getting done at a steady pace. We're all human. We're going to lose motivation when the full bill is paid at that point. That's just how it works. Do construction draws. We do them for new construction all the time. Do them for construction on your rehab too. It's a $5,000 job. It's going to take 5 weeks. I'll give you $1,000 a week when you hit these goal points. It allows you to make sure the work is getting done. It allows the contractor to have a little more motivation to get the work done. And it allows everybody to stay on the same page time-wise. Lien waivers. Go into this a little bit more in a little bit, but lien waivers are a way of both sides ensuring that they, one, have been paid, and that two, that they are paying the bills that they're supposed to be paid, and the contractor's not going to come back later. There's two kinds of lien waivers. Well, there's really four, but for now there's two, partial and final. So if you're doing jobs and you're doing construction draws, you're doing a partial lien waiver. Hey, the bathroom's done. You were going to charge me $2,000 to do the bathroom's done. Here's your $2,000. I now have a partial lien waiver for $2,000 for rehabbing the bathroom. Okay, now you're good on that. And then as you hit more and more benchmarks, you can issue more and more lien waivers. Okay, let's say there were 4 types of lien waivers. The 2 main types are conditional and non-conditional. Conditional lien waiver says, once I am paid, I will waive my lien rights. Indiana is unique in that it protects contractors so that you cannot have an enforceable lien waiver unless you're paid. I don't care if the lien waivers, you sign the contract and say, okay, here's my lien waiver, I'm paid in full. If you don't actually pay that contractor, lien waiver is not valid. It's not enforceable. Okay? Yep.
Sorry. You said it wouldn't be enforceable if he wasn't paid. If he wasn't paid in full, like, say, well, the job wasn't done well, but so I'm going to give you 75%. He signs off on it, would that still be enforceable?
If you settle on an issue, yes. Be specific, put it in writing. But yeah, if you are dissatisfied with the job and it's a $1,000 job and you want to give him $750 and he says, all right, good enough. Yes, that's fine. But just a blanket lien waiver for when the job is done in order to protect the contractor, they're not enforceable. Well, again, partial and final. So if you're doing them job by job, partial would be bathroom's done, living room's done, roof is done. As they're done, they issue a partial lien waiver. Final lien waiver would be, upon the final payment, I will completely waive any rights I had to file a mechanics lien. That's really what this is all getting to. Contractor's right to file a mechanics lien for not being paid. An unconditional lien waiver, which we really don't see until closing time or disbursement of the final check time, says, I've been paid in full, I waive my rights to file a mechanics lien. That's generally the only time you're going to see it. Again, if they sign it ahead of time without reason, it's really not enforceable. You can't say, you signed it, I don't have to pay you because you signed it. It doesn't work that way. Okay, lien waivers in Indiana. While we do protect contractors, we decidedly don't really care what's in them. They don't regulate them. There is no form, there is no notarization that's required. They just kind of, I hate to say best judgment rule, but just make sure that everything's in writing and that it's specific. Because for some reason there are no forms, there's no statute, nothing that really says what needs to be in them. Okay. Hired a contractor, they passed all the tests, they've done the work, something went wrong. Yep.
On the previous slide, you had notarization. Is it necessary?
On a lien waiver, yes. Correct.
Are there a lot of cases that notarization isn't necessary?
For
Just in real estate deals in general, or do you always err on the side of getting it notarized?
And probably to the chagrin of all my clients, I almost require everything to be notarized. Because if it's coming from someone who I don't know, I want it notarized. Especially if you're someone who I don't know who you are. I want it notarized because I need to make sure that what I'm putting in front of a judge is accurate, or at least you're saying it is under the penalty of perjury.
As far as a notary goes, could it be a person that's involved with the company?
No.
Like, it has to be somebody totally.
Yes, do not use a notary in your own business for your own business. If it's benefiting you, the notary cannot be related to you or your company. So we'll just leave it as simple as that. Don't do it. Eric.
You know my situation, but in the situation with the real estate office,
Yeah.
combined with the construction office, my real estate office does a notary, is that still an issue?
Separate entities, yes. The key is don't have the benefiting party have the notary. Now, if the notary works for both companies, that's problematic.
It's an agent that has it, so.
Yeah. As long as your notary doesn't work for the company that is benefiting by the agreement, then you're good. I always err on the side of caution and say, go to the bank. Come to my office. Half our office is notaries. We do it for free. Just come and we'll not notarize it for you. Any more questions on notary? All right. So now we've got everybody set up. Contractor did his job, or at least he thinks he did. Something goes wrong. As the owner, what do? So the two cases that I see most are one, contractor didn't complete the contract, or they did, but they didn't do a good enough job. So those are the two, okay, generally. So what we have is if contractor is not completing his work, we have a breach of contract. You executed a written contract because you saw slide 2 or whatever that slide was. So you have a written one, it's specific, contractor breached it. What do? Well, if you have deadlines because they're not working timely, that will be helpful. If you have detailed communication, that's helpful. You need to set, and I apologize because this slide is out of order, I didn't realize it until just now, but you need to set yourself up to help me. My job is to hammer it home. Your job is to provide me with the details so that I can do that. Okay? So detailed communication, timelines, text, emails. If you're telling me that the contractor told you this, this, and this, I don't care. That doesn't help me. Because the judge isn't going to believe me over him. The judge isn't going to believe you over him. Okay? So make sure that the communication is detailed. I don't care if it's text. I use text all the time. Email, perfect. They snail mail it, perfect. I don't care. Have it be in writing. Okay, so the contractor did the job, but he did a bad job. He did the job, you want to pay him 75% of the work, he's okay with that. Okay. In your contract, every contract, I always include what's called a warranty of professionalism. Because if it's in there, yes, ideally they're doing professional work, but if you have a warranty of professionalism, and I bring another professional in and say, yeah, that guy did not do a professional job. Okay, now we have a breach of a term in the contract. Okay, so if it's in there, I can say that they breached the contract, and then all of the rest of my breach provisions, so my contracts are said as here's what they're going to do. If they breach, here's what we consider a breach. And when they breach, here's what I get. Attorney fees being one of them. So I don't know how many of you know this, but you don't just get attorney fees. If your contract does not specifically say that you get attorney fees in a breach, you are on your own. You got to pay your own attorney fees. If your contract says, if you breach, I get attorney fees, and then specifically says failure to act in a professional manner is considered a breach, now you get your attorney fees, right? Contractors not meeting deadlines. If you don't set deadlines in your contract, how can I say that they're not meeting them? You know, within reason. If he's supposed to finish it in a week and it takes him a year, okay, that's an easy one. If it's supposed to take him a week and it takes him a month, well, now what? 2 months. So what? Things happen. That's the contractor's defense every time. Things happen, deadlines get missed, but if you specifically put in there, one of the terms of the contract is you have to finish within a week, and they don't have a real good reason why they didn't, we have a breach of the contract. Okay? Now, none of the breaches really relate to damages, that's a completely different question. So one of the things I always tell my clients is if you can work it out, work it out. I tell contractor clients that, I tell my consumer clients that, because the one thing that I don't want to do is charge you $2,000, $3,000 to try a case when $1,000 to the contractor or to the consumer could have settled it. My goal is not to take your money, my goal is to save you money. So and I'll tell you, and people who've used me will tell you, I'll tell you right away, if I think $1,000 can get it done, I think I told somebody today, if you can get a client out of their house for a few $100, pay them. Don't pay me to evict them. Give the money you would give to me to the client or to the tenant, get them out. So a lot of tenants will do it for a few $100 just to move out by the weekend. Do it. So one of the things is keep in mind what your damages are. If you're a month late, but you really don't have any monetary loss, keep that in mind. Maybe don't pull that lawsuit trigger that quickly because there's probably better options. And of course, deadlines can always be extended by agreement. It's supposed to take a week and they're taking a month. And you don't care to give them a week or two. Text them that it's fine. Email them that it's fine. Get it in writing that it's acceptable. Okay, pursuing contractors. Bond, not a great avenue to go down. It's helpful. It's more of a last-ditch effort, in my opinion. Remaining construction draw. So if you're doing the scheduled draw and you've got money left over, it's real easy to say, I'm not going to give you any more money until you fix these problems. That gives them motivation. That gives you incentive to keep them on. It allows both parties to kind of work towards finishing the contract, even if it takes a little bit longer. That's my favorite one. Mutual release would be that 75% thing that we just discussed. If you're not happy with the work and you just want to be done, like, okay, I'll give you 50%, 20%, whatever, and we both just walk away, that's mutual release. Get it in writing, of course. Something that says, here's what we performed. We agree it's just not working out anymore. We're going to walk away. Nobody's required to perform under the contract anymore. Mutual release is good. And last but not least, the lawsuit. So the guy's not paying you, you're not working with him, you can't figure out what you're going to do, haven't heard from him in months. That's where you come to me and we file a lawsuit. And again, give me as much detail as you can in order to make sure that I can do the best job that I can. So whether it's small claims, whether it's full-blown lawsuit, to me that is the last option. Because as many of you know, just because I get you a judgment for $1 million, they don't have $1 million, you're not getting any money. I don't care if it's $1 million or $1,000, they don't have it, you're not getting it. And you've now paid me how much money to get you a piece of paper. That's always my last option. When things don't go as planned as a contractor, you can file a mechanics lien. Everyone know what a mechanics lien is? More or less? Okay. If you don't, you're about to. There's timelines which go with this mechanics lien filing. If you're working on a commercial job, you get 60 days from the last day that you either, one, worked on the property, or two, provided labor and materials to the property. If you blow that 60 days, they're done. No mechanics lien for you. That doesn't mean you can't sue on the note. You can still say, hey, you owe me money, but the mechanics lien attaches it to the property which you were working on. And that gives you all the leverage, which we'll go through in a minute. You can sell the property if they don't pay you. I've done it, and it works. Because I got a check that day. The day before the sheriff's sale, paid in full. Done. It's like an $8,000 lien or something on a $250,000 house. I had set for a sheriff's sale. Eric, I think you asked me about it.
Oh, I called you.
Yeah. $8,000 minimum bid on a $250,000 house. Paid that day, the day before the sale. Perfect. We're paid.
Told me, don't worry, it ain't going.
Yeah. We're paid in full. Awesome. We got paid. 60 days for a commercial job, 90 days for a residential job. Now, I know there are ways of describing residential as up to a fourplex. We don't. Our statutes say one or two. One was residential home, duplex. That's it. That's residential. 90 days from the last day of work for residential. Okay. Things don't go as planned as a contractor still. Pre-lien notice. Who knows what a pre-lien notice is? Got one guy. That's okay. Pre-lien notice. If you are subcontractor and you do not have a contract with the homeowner or the person who hired the general contractor, you have to send out a pre-lien notice within 60 days of starting the job. 60 days starting the job, okay? The other one is 60 or 90 days after. This one is 60 or 90 days from the start date, okay? What a pre-lien notice does is if I don't know who my subcontractors are in my job, how can I be responsible to make sure they get paid? So the pre-lien notice makes sure that the subcontractor is able to get paid, or at least able to get a lien on the property for which they're working if the general contractor is not paying them. Material and equipment suppliers also have to use it. The general contractor does not. You contract with them directly, you have a written contract, they don't have to give you a pre-lien notice, they can just file a mechanics lien at the end if you don't pay them. Subcontractors, material equipment suppliers, they have to give you that pre-lien notice. Remember, 60 days. Exceptions. Surprising to a lot of people probably. If you don't live in the property, if you're a rehabber or a flipper, no pre-lien notice. That's only if you are an owner-occupant of the property. So if you're flipping a house, you don't need a pre-lien notice. They just file a mechanics lien at the end if they're not paid. If you contract it with them directly like a GC, like we said, you don't need a pre-lien notice. If it's a commercial or industrial property that you're working on, no pre-lien notice. New construction. Generally, the idea is we don't know who the buyer is going to be, so there's really no one to send the notice to, so you don't need a pre-lien notice. Okay. How do you do it? You have to serve the owner by certified mail. So you pay that $5.65 or whatever it is to send a certified mail because you want to prove two things. One, that they got it, and two, the date that they got it, because that date is very important. You have to record your pre-lien notice within 60 days. So it's not just enough to send it to a certified. You have to go to the county in which the property is located and record this pre-lien notice to put the world on notice, no pun intended, that you have not been paid on this job. It has to be verified and notified, or verified and notarized. So one, signed in front of a notary. Two, verified, so you're, again, under the penalties of perjury, saying that this information is accurate, you're not just making it up. Okay, so a pre-lien notice does not get you can't sue the contractor or the homeowner directly. You can get a lien on their property, sure. You can also put them on notice that you're not being paid. The benefit for this, again, as a subcontractor, is if you put them on notice, well, let me back up. The reason you can't sue them directly is because the homeowner didn't sign a contract with you. The GC did, right? GC signs with the homeowner, GC signs with you. GC is the middleman. So if I don't have a contract with you, you can't sue me, okay? You can't sue me because Eric didn't pay you, right? You can sue Eric. You can't sue me because I have no idea who you are. Unless you send me a notice by certified mail that says, I'm putting you on notice that Eric didn't pay me. And it's signed, certified, January 20th, and then I owe Eric another $10,000, and on January 25th, I go, all right, Eric, here's your other 10 grand. If I sign for this notice, and you're a sub, any money that I pay the GC who's not paying you after that, I'm now liable for, because I'm now on notice that you are not getting paid. So I can't say I didn't know. I can't say because you sent it to me certified. I can't say I didn't know that you weren't getting paid. And I'm now liable to you, the sub, when I otherwise would not be, for the money that I pay after I get notice. It's a way to freeze the funds. Because if I'm paying the GC and the GC's not paying you, you want to make sure those funds get frozen up so that I can't, so that you're not stuck with having to go the mechanical lien route, which is never ideal. So it's putting the owner on notice that you're not being paid. Again, difference here is it doesn't have to be notarized, it doesn't have to be verified. Now, I don't know why. It's how Indiana operates. We do things differently from time to time, apparently. Send it certified for your own sake, not just because it's required, but send it certified because, again, you know they get it and you know when they get it. Okay. We did the pre-lien notice, or we didn't because we're a GC. We decided, okay, we're still not getting paid. We're going to file a mechanics lien. Again, 60 days for a commercial job, 90 days for a residential job. Timing matters. If you're day 61 or day 91, don't even file it. You're done. Blew your timeline. Some question as to when the timeline ends. The general theory is if you come back to do like, I don't know, touch-up work, it can be argued that you are still providing a benefit to the property, and so you're still technically extending that timeline. Don't wait. Don't use that timeline unless you absolutely have to. Go based on when you did the last material work to the job. If you have to touch up, I had a case one time where a guy went because he just wanted to extend the timeline, so he just went and touched up like railing or something. He said it bought him another 30 days. Judge didn't think so. So do it from when you're actually working on the property, from when you're providing materials. It's the easiest way for me to do my job and protect your interest. Who can file a mechanics lien? Property manager, site manager, job manager? No. If you're not actually performing labor, you cannot file a mechanics lien. You can sue under whatever your note is or whatever your agreement is, but you have no right to lien the property because you're not providing the labor, which is the opportune word. How do you file it? Just like the pre-lien notice, you go to the county, you take your notice. There are requirements, which if you need help filling one out, let me know. But there are requirements that have to go in. You have to say the legal description of the property, like the deed, not that short, brief legal description you got on the treasurer's website, full legal description, include the PIN number, include the property address. You got to record it with the county in duplicate. The statute hasn't changed, even though for our purposes, Lake County has. You used to have to file in duplicate in Lake County at least because they would keep one. Now they just kind of scan it and give it back to you. It's the county's job to make sure they mail it out. And I haven't filed one since we did change the way that things are recorded, but my understanding is they still do it the same way. They will send one out for you. Okay, and there's a fee for it. And it's their job, so they do it. They have to send it out within 3 business days. Me, I send it to them anyway. I know the recorder's going to do it. I do it anyway. I send it certified. I need to make sure that they're getting it. I'm never going to rely on a county organization to do very important work for me. Don't do it yourselves. Do it. If they do it too, great. But I would also do it myself. I went 5 of them just to make sure you're preserving your rights. So what does that mean? Okay, I have a lien. Now what? Okay? There's different ways to enforce it. You have to file what's called a foreclosure action. So foreclosure action says, okay, I have a lien on property. Maybe any kind of lien. For the record, this does not only specifically apply to mechanics liens. This applies to any lien. If I have a small claims action against someone and they owe me $3,000, at a certain point in time, I can foreclose on that lien too. It's kind of dumb to foreclose on a $1,000 lien, but it's effective. For mechanics liens, you file a foreclosure of the mechanic lien. Okay, so it's like a foreclosure like a bank would file, except instead of foreclosing on a mortgage, you're foreclosing on a mechanics lien. You're saying, I am owed $10,000, or in my case, $8,000. I don't care if the house is worth $1 million. I'm going to sell it at a sheriff's sale. I'm going to sell my $8,000 lien on your $1 million property at a sheriff's sale. If you want to be the guy that loses a 7-figure house because you didn't pay an $8,000 contractor, that's on you, because they will get sold. It also reduces it to a judgment. Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody has a lien on your house and it's a $1 million house, it's an $8,000 lien, they buy the lien at a sheriff's sale, what is the ownership right then?
Subject to any other liens on the property that precede it. So yeah, they're going to have a mortgage. So you're taking it subject to that mortgage, but
Got it. You inherit all debts associated with the property.
You inherit all liens. I gotta say it this way because it's technically specific. You inherit all liens preceding yours.
Okay.
Okay. So you can't foreclose on liens. You can foreclose on other liens after you. Like let's say I'm gonna keep picking on Eric. I sue Eric because he didn't pay one of my invoices, and I get a $500 judgment against him. And then the next day you have a mechanics lien filed, but it's after my judgment. You're taking it subject to my judgment.
Got it.
Now my judgment's after your mechanics lien. You can foreclose out my judgment.
Got it.
Now my right goes away versus yours.
What is the actual date for the mechanics lien? Is it the date? Like what date is the recorded date, correct?
Recorded date, yes. Yeah, so the date you recorded is when we end that 60-day, 90-day window. The date you recorded. statute of limitations, every other statute of limitations is longer, except for mechanics liens, they're 1 year. So if you've ever closed through us and we're like, hey, you gotta wait, I don't know, 6 weeks because we got mechanics lien on file. That's why. You gotta wait a year. They're good for a year. If you don't do anything with them for a year, you're still owed the money, but you no longer can foreclose on the house. Right? Something I forgot to put on here, that's for a contractor's benefit. Let's say you're trying to close a house and the contractor puts a mechanics lien and you don't think it's the right lien. You don't think he should have filed it. You think he was paid. You think he's just trying to screw with you because you had a disagreement or falling out. What can you do as a consumer? There's an Indiana statute that says if you provide a letter, you can require them to foreclose on their lien within 30 days, file the foreclosure, or lose their lien rights. Indiana code allows the consumer to defend itself. You don't have to wait out the year. You send a letter that says, pursuant to Indiana code, and I didn't put it up there because I forgot. Pursuant to Indiana code section, whatever, you have 30 days from the date you receive this letter to foreclose. If you don't, your rights are gone. And again, send it certified so we know when to sign for it. Okay? And that protects you as a consumer. So you're both protected, depending on which way you want to come at it from. Okay, these are the timelines. I'm sure Adrian will probably email us out if anybody wants it. It's just more of a better way of just kind of describing the timelines. Who to serve it, when to serve it. They give you some fun little comments. That's really much all it is. I'm sure Adrian will hand it out if you guys want it. Same thing. This is more for personal liability. So the first one was a pre-lien. This is for the personal liability. Fun thing about this one is there's no time limit, right? So as long as the construction is still going on, you can send it to them. The idea is to put them on notice that if you make any other payments to the guy who's not paying me, you're now on the hook for paying me. That's the whole point of this letter. If you send it too late and the GC has been paid in full, it does nothing at that point. Right? And mechanics lien. So again, 60 days for the last furnishing labor or materials for residential projects. That seems backwards. I think they screwed this up because it's not. It's 60 days for commercial, 90 days. So I think this is just backwards. But again, see, I pulled this off a link. If anybody wants the link, I'll be happy to send it to you. And throw some pictures in there so it's not just me talking and reading off of my slides. Questions? Yep.
Maybe I missed something. Let's say I'm a sub.
Yep.
And he's a GC and you're the owner. Oh. Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Let's say I'm the sub. Okay. He's the GC and you're the owner.
Right.
I said the really thank you. Not before you pay me. So I know he's not gonna pay me, so I said the letter, everything you sign, you got it. So you say if you pay him in full, you're still responsible for my part, correct? Because you signed the
Sorry, ask that one more time. If I pay Greg in full.
Yeah, and I sent you the notice.
Yes.
And you sign.
Yes.
You know he owed me, but he doesn't pay me.
Yes.
So you pay him in full, and you still owe me the money because you don't pay me.
I don't owe you anything, okay? Because
no, this I'm asking.
You
I
didn't sign a contract with me.
Yeah, I didn't sign, but you know he doesn't pay me.
Okay, so the timing of it matters.
Yes, of course.
If I pay Greg today, and you send me the letter tomorrow, I'm not giving you anything. Greg owes you the money, okay?
Yes.
If you send me the letter and I get it today, and I pay Greg 10 grand tomorrow,
yes.
Now I'm on the hook to you for however much you're owed. Because I'm put on notice as the owner that you, the sub, are not being paid by the guy I hired.
Now the question is here: are you allowed to pay me that difference, which I'm just not gonna pay? Greg's not gonna pay me because you know it's a problem between me and him. Because I got this case was a few years ago. Actually, everything was done at the table in the end. The sub come to me, hey, he doesn't pay me. What's gonna do? I'm gonna put in a lien in the house, so and so and so. So. Can you pay me, like a sub, whatever he owed me?
And not pay him?
Yes, that different part, because you signed the paper before you pay. Are you allowed to do that?
If I sign the paper
before you
pay him, Before I pay him,
In full.
yes, I can pay you directly.
Right.
Because I am on notice that you have not been paid by him.
And you're not, yes, and then
So-
let's say $5,000, you owe me, you pay me, but you extract from his total.
Yes, I will reduce the amount I'm paying him because you properly served me with notice that he's not paying you. Because if I pay him, my defense is, Judge, if I paid Greg, now I'm legally on the hook to you.
That's
So
correct.
in order to avoid that, I'm not gonna pay him, I'm gonna pay you directly. Yes, that's what I would do. And again, this is not case specific.
And now Greg files a lien because you didn't pay him.
Greg files a lien, I file a requirement to foreclose, and we hash it out in court, and he hires me to represent.
Scenario, if you're paying him now, how do you know what to pay him? Like, how do you know what the agreement is?
The notice says what he's owed, right? So the question was, how do I know what to pay me? The notice requires you to tell me how much. You can't just say Greg owes me money. You have to say how much it is, what it's for. That way I know what you do. I mean, if you write me a letter tomorrow saying you owe me $5,000, I'm not going to cut you a check because I don't know who you are. If you say why, Greg hired me to do the work, he didn't pay me, here's the contract. Now I'm on notice that I owe you money through Greg. I'm just going to pay you directly, and I have a defense. Well, Greg ultimately sues me.
And do you have a paper between you and Greg, you pay less $5,000 because you pay me like a sub?
Okay, so that's a really hard situation because you're going to get sued either way. Let me just break it down for you. If that's what happens, I'm going to get sued either way. I'm going to get sued by one side or the other. I need to protect myself.
And how are you going to do that?
Your letter protects me through Greg. Because remember, that letter has to be signed under signed and notarized. It has to be verified and notarized.
Correct.
So you're verifying under the penalty of perjury. What you're telling me is accurate. You can't lie to me. If you lie to me, it's felony. That's the whole point. Okay? So if you're lying to me, and I, again, have a defense, I'm like, well, he signed it under perjury. What am I supposed to do? You know? Ultimately, it will work itself out, I believe. But
I mean, keep in mind, you're probably having a conversation with Greg. Hey, Greg, I got this letter. You didn't pay your sub $5,000. What's going on?
I'm not just going to cut you a check. Yeah. It won't be immediate. I'll definitely get to the bottom of what's going on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. My question was, if you are having work done on a rental or a flip, you mentioned you don't have the same defenses against an unknown sub. How would you try to structure the deal to avoid the possibility that you have a sub that the GC didn't tell you about?
Well, here's the thing, and again, let's go back to when we're hiring. I want to know who your subs are. I want to know who's working on my property. Because I want to make sure you're not hiring Crappy Roofing Company, Inc. And I want to make sure that you're using people who are licensed, bonded, and insured. So if you're not, I need to know that. So if I know who your subs are, and they're telling me you're not paying them, I'm getting lien waivers from them. Before I pay you the next installment, I'm going to get lien waivers from everybody who was supposed to be done already. So if you are a roofer and phase one is roofing, and I call you and say, hey, roofing's done, GC's been paid, can I get your lien waiver? And you say, no, I didn't get paid. Well, then the work stops. Because now I need to figure out why you didn't get paid. Was it you, or was it Greg, or was it Eric? Right? So that's kind of how I would structure the deal. That's why construction draws are great. Because you can hold the payments until you know that you're not going to get sued for something stupid. Because your GC didn't allocate or budget the funds correctly. That's what I would do.
Okay, so as the homeowner, if you don't sign for the certified letter, what happens then? Do you know, if they tried a couple times, is it still considered served, or is it just done?
That's the short answer. I'm not sure. There's not really case law. It doesn't happen all that often. It's a pretty unique measure to take. As a contractor, my defense is I tried. I followed the statute. As a homeowner, if you're avoiding the mail, I don't think that says a lot about your defense. You know, there are professional certified mail avoiders. I do how many tax sale things, and 90% of it gets unclaimed or no one signs for it. They don't want it. They don't want to know they owe somebody money.
Can you post on the door too?
Try. It's better evidence that you made the effort. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's say we have we're talking like small project where some guy calls you and says, you know, we're talking $200, $300, $400.
Sure.
and says, can you do this? So we go and take care of it, and then there's no payment. So it's kind of like a twofold question. So if it's just a small project and he acknowledges maybe in a text or an email that he does owe you money, okay, would that hold up in if something like we're talking like small amounts of money, would that?
$200?
Yeah, if he acknowledged in a text or he or she.
It's 2020. I don't call anybody when I have to. It's text. I text everybody. So if you have a communication in text, submit it to the court. Perfect.
Okay. And then the second question is, okay, so we're talking a couple $100. Is it even worth it going after a lien?
Don't hire me to do it. If you want to do a lien,
what are my options if you're not going to pay?
I think it was on the slide, but I think I forgot to say it. The fun thing and convenient thing for homeowners is, even though it's not in a contract, you have a statutory right to attorney fees in enforcing a mechanics lien. I don't care if your mechanics lien is $100. Okay, so let's say Eric owes me $100, he doesn't do the work. Or I don't pay, I'm sorry, Eric's working for me, I don't pay him the $100, he files a mechanics lien, hire someone to represent him. If the mechanics lien is $100, but the legal fees are $5,000, I now owe him $5,100. So you have a statutory right to reimbursement if it's in the, remember I said if it's in the contract, that's the only way you get attorney fees. Mechanics liens are the exception. The Indiana statute specifically says that you get reimbursed for attorney fees in enforcing a mechanics lien. So I don't care what the size of the lien is, you get reimbursed. Well, you get a judgment for it. Remember what we said about judgments and how collectible they are.
I mean, in your opinion, is it even worth it, the time to go after this, except to make a point?
It depends. Do you want to make a point or do you want to make money? I've done both, promise. I've done both situations. I've had clients who said, I don't care if it costs me thousands of dollars, I will prove a point to this guy. And we did. He didn't make any money, but he got a judgment, which he is 5 years old. Oh.
So maybe this is more of an investor question, less of a legal question. It sounds like a construction draw is a good way to keep a contractor party accountable. I've heard that contractors sometimes don't like to work with construction draws. Is that a perfectly fine reason to not work with a contractor potentially?
Yes. If I've got a contractor who doesn't want to do a construction draw, I'm moving on. There's no way. I'm not going to pay you in full to do work, to do 6 months worth of work. There's no way. Because you're going to take now a year and a half to do it. Because what's your incentive? You've already been paid.
Sure.
Yeah, there's no way I would work without a construction draw of some kind.
Okay.
I mean, that's just me. I don't know about you guys. That's
So what is the best? Does it depend on the time, the length of time? What's the best draw?
What is the best draw?
Yeah, so what, 50 up front, 50 on?
That's whatever you work out with your contractor. If you've got 100, I mean, so my experience is more through the title company that we run. We have construction draws, so the parties by agreement will send us written notice as to when to disperse funds, and then we disperse funds to the contractor. It just depends. If it's a new construction, I don't think 50 and 50 is probably a very good idea, but I mean 20, 20, 20, 20 is, I mean that's probably, I don't know.
It's just a quick rehab, 3 weeks, 50.
Yeah, work something out. I mean, it depends on what the job is. If you want to break it up by week, that's a personal business question.
Just a quick one. In the instance where you said the timing is important, say the subcontractor notifies the person paying the general contractor that he's not getting paid. You're not liable for paying anything before that, right?
Correct.
Only what is after that he's not paid.
Right, because
he sues the general contractor?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can only sue a person you have a contract with. There are exceptions, of course. But if you don't have a contract with me, you don't have legal standing to sue me. You don't have anything to base your lawsuit off of. Okay? Now, again, there's exceptions, this being one of them. If you provide me notice that you're not being paid and I ignore the notice and keep paying the guy who's not paying you, that is a reason for you to sue me at that point. For the amount that I paid after. Yes. Yeah.
So as a GC, I work with subcontractors, and there's one company that if I do subcontracting work with them, they'll send me an invoice. Just like a small project again. They'll send me an invoice, and on the invoice it'll say, you know, if this after 30 days, like 20% interest will be added on to it. So I'm wondering,
number one, not that I'm gonna have the problem, I'm gonna pay the person.
Sure.
But is that something that I can do with my own contracting work, or is that legally binding, especially if there's no contract forthright?
Okay, so I'm not going to opine on your very specific question, but for one, there's usury laws, so 20% is not going to cut it. Two,
too low.
Yeah, too low. Yeah, love it. What are we doing? Two, if I don't have a contract with you that says I have to pay you interest, I don't have. You put whatever you want in the letter. I'm not paying you any interest. It's only if I sign a contract that says subject to interest. Yeah, you're going to pay that interest rate. But if you're just sending me an invoice that says I'm going to bump it 20%, that's never going to be enforceable. Unless I agree to it or text you saying, yep, sounds good, or something. If I don't affirm it, then I don't owe you anything that I don't agree to pay you. Is the general rule. Yeah.
It's about the license, bonded, and insured.
Yep, licensed, bonded, and insured.
If I'm dealing with the property manager and they hire a company that isn't licensed and bonded and insured in Gary for a small project, does the problem come to me or to the property manager?
Depends. And I say that, which is a very little answer for me to give, because it depends on whether or not you knew. Okay, so if you say to he's out of the room now, so if you hire Eric and say, Eric, find me the cheapest guy you can find. I don't care if he's licensed, bonded, doesn't matter. And Eric goes and finds the cheapest guy you can find. City of Gary finds out and cites you. Yeah, you're gonna be liable for that because you knew about it. If you didn't know about it, they might try to make you liable, but honestly what I've done in the past, it ended, now bear in mind, it ended the management relationship, probably as it should have. I go to the Gary City prosecutor and say, hey, my guy had nothing to do with this. Here's his property manager. He's the one who hired the guy. Well, now they go after the property manager. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you know about it, yeah, that's going to be a problem. But
property manager hires the work, something happened, tree fell on the roof, need the roof done right away, property manager hires it, never pays, can that contractor still file a lien on the homeowner?
Yes, you can file a lien on the home. That's a little different because it is benefiting you.
Okay.
So the error is not necessarily, so in his example, the error was not that the work was done wrong, it was that it was done wrong by the wrong person. So what he's asking about is more of not crime is a bad word, but what you're asking about is general property damage. So from that perspective, you own the home, so yes, you would be liable for a mechanics lien that gets filed. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go after your project manager or property manager, but it's your home, they have to have a right to file on something, they can't file on the property manager's home. So yes, your home would be subject to it. Yeah. I guess an add-on to that is the contractor doesn't know who owns the home. All they know is they're providing the benefit.
So if you put in the contract, as far as a timeline on it, like, okay, this is going to be done by February 25th or whatever, can you legally put in there penalty per day after, a certain, like $50 a day after that?
So it has to be reasonable. And I had a much stronger standpoint on this earlier in the year before I got a $10,000 late fee for a contract that the contractor just didn't finish because it was like $100 a day in the contract, and the judge gave it to me, which was great for my client, but astounded me. But most judges are going to look at it from a reasonableness standard. Are your losses $50 a day? Probably not. You're probably not losing $50 a day because it's short. The judge is going to say, okay, how much are you actually losing? So if you can rent it for $900 and it's a 30-day month, maybe it's $30 a day. They're going to look at it from that. If you say it's a $500 per day late fee, that's never going to be enforced. Although apparently 100 did. So, yeah.
Yeah, just back on what he was just saying. I mean, if you flipping a house, when you flipping a house, time. I mean, because every day that house is not finished, it's going to cost the person that's rehab. That's rehabbing the house. And with the problem we've had, and we've been through a whole bunch of contractors, interviewing them, nobody wants to sign a contract. Now, they will bring you a contract to say, okay, well, they want to get paid. But what we try to do is give them a contract that shows that we are obligated to pay you according to the contract. But so many of them are not used to contracts. And I just want to know if anybody knows some contractors that have no problem just looking at the contract. Because, you know, as a rehabber, we have to have quality. We have to have, and it's important to us that, you know, it's a timeline, and we want to pay you. We love paying contractors, but we have to have the work done right, because we're talking about having a house that somebody's going to live in.
Right.
We're trying to sell this property, but we're still having problems finding contractors that would even look at the contract.
Maybe it doesn't have to be a written contract, like Sean was saying, if it's a small enough job, I don't necessarily need to have a 4-page contract to tell you how to re-drywall my basement, right? It's pretty limited how much leeway you have in re-drywalling my basement. So if you have text communication or email communication, hey, I'll give you $500 to re-drywall my basement. That's good enough, right? I mean, I would prefer more, but it's enough to establish a relationship.
What if you rehabbing the whole house? You know, you going into a place where you
I would not work with a contractor
without a contract.
I don't think you got the right guy at that point. I think you need someone else.
Just keep interviewing contractors till you find.
I would ask the Facebook group who they use, because I know there's contractors that are willing to sign them. And if you need one, I probably can conjure one up for you.
Okay, great.
If you're doing a full house rehab without a written agreement.
Oh no, I haven't done it. No, I would.
No, I'm saying I
wouldn't even think about doing it.
Yeah, okay, good answer. Any other questions? Everyone is fully up to date on working with contractors. Perfect. Adrian, we did it.
Awesome, thank you.
Amazing.
I did a rehab once. A very poorly written contract, accidentally paid the guy all up front, and it didn't go so well. And because I paid him up front, I had no leverage. So when he's dragging his feet, it's not like I was like, hey, I'm not going to pay you anymore. He already had me. And I'm like, he sucks, but I want to try to recoup as much money as I can, so maybe he'll finish it. And after 90 days, we fired him and had to pretty much rip out everything he did. And I have pictures I can show you guys if you want to see it. It looked like Ray Charles did the rehab. So I learned everything's in writing. And I find that the contractors that agree to the terms, and it's, you're having a conversation with them. It's not, black, white, hey, take these terms. This is how I'm paying you, or I'm finding someone else. It's a conversation. But the ones that agree to it, when I hold up my bargain, pay when I'm supposed to pay them, they do their work. It's a great relationship.
Yes.
So that was awesome. Thank you. All right. Who has a deal? Any wholesalers? Who are the wholesalers in here? One, kind of. You're like, all the wholesalers disappeared. Anyone have a deal? Looking to sell a property? Need a property? Have something that you own that you want a joint venture on? Anybody? You get in the mic.
Yeah. Over the last several years, we've purchased close to 200 homes through the tax sale to Gary. We've rehabbed about 120 of them. But the only reason I bring that up is because I'm looking, I have about 15 to 20 tax sale homes that we have bought that we're looking to remote. These are full gut rehab jobs. I'm not looking to really make any money. I'm just looking to lower some inventory because I have about 80 of them. So if you're looking for 10 to 15 tax sale homes that have already been all the way through the redemption period, come speak to us and I'll have some available for you.
And Anthony, who spoke about that package deal, he put something on the table back there for another package deal that he is selling. So check that out if you're looking for a portfolio. Anyone else have anything? I have a 2-unit in Hammond, a legal 2-unit that I'm looking to offload. So if you want information about that, catch me after. Anything else? Going once, going twice, gone. So next month is February 17th. We do this talk every year. We're going to talk about buying tax liens at the tax sale. The tax sale this year is the first week in April. We are doing the presentation in February because our March meeting is too late. So we want to be able to get you the information so you'll have March to do your due diligence and go look at whatever you're interested in looking at. So that will be next month. We're going to talk about the tax sale. That is February. That meeting will be packed, so if you want a good seat, come early for that. So we have the room for about another hour, so feel free to network, talk. We still got plenty of pizza and coffee, so catch Mike, grab his card if you want to pick his brain for some additional stuff.
Yeah, I got it.
So you just got 20 of them, like, you got the addresses? Just pick the best ones and send it to me. Help me get it back.
Yes, I don't have them here with me because I was expecting to tonight, but
I can give you our phone number.
well, we'll take it.
You want to text me right now?
I know you've been to like the last 3.
Kim and Greg. Well, they're going to text me.
Okay, just like,
You want to text me your names?
putting it in the like that.
That's all right.
I get property. Right now, I'm probably get every once in a while I get so you guys, I can get over Thursday to the yeah.
What's that?
He's coming in.
Oh, really?
Okay. Did you get pedals in your bag?
I have road pedals, but I have flat pedals. They're on. I mean, I have both. I can. You get a list. Including shoes. So it came with
friends that are flippers or whatever. They're always looking for something to do.
But I'm trying to decide.
You don't want them on the other.
Yeah, I don't want to mountain show
right up their alley.
Okay.
He actually, one of the guys actually retired just to do this. Yeah.
Okay. So he's like,
but I
have the flat pedals.
But I don't know.
I come across where I just throw his money, whether he wants it or not, pass it on, takes it. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Great.
I think the road shoes are there, that's all I heard.
What is your name? I think whatever you get, we found.
So you got a lot of tax
No, but I have just the flat pedals and platform ones that I can throw on there. I'll probably use that this weekend. So
You're gonna go this weekend?
I'm trying to be like 40.
Oh, they need to be, or they just.
I'm trying to go. I gotta get it out.
Yeah. Like you have a gravel bike now, so I'm jealous.
They're really just ugly houses.
It's gonna be fun.
How was that? Oh, you got them up there.
I'm sorry.
15. Did I show you? You probably saw it. Wait, hold on. You probably saw it.
Oh, I saw that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't make it about me, but I am.
didn't tell you that.
Yeah, no, I can define it, but do you have a really cool? I love it. I have one with the road. Yeah, yeah. Are you one with the road?
I am split.
Yeah.
We really have that's the thing, Gary. We have one out there. We haven't really been deep into doing houses in Gary because it's hard to rehab a house and stuff. So you really must be the builders around. They're all I mean, we're going to go that way too. So hopefully y'all get in contact with me.
We will.
We should go to college.
We got on over in California, and then he got on a flight several hours long. And when he got back, his kids were like, something happened. Like they locked up and couldn't walk. Because he had went 700 miles in 40 days, and then he's on a plane sitting for like hours on end, and it's like locked up.
Yeah, okay, so our property, my company's all just in-house, it's managing my properties and some of my investor properties. There's a group of them, so we don't work with anybody else's house, it's all in-house. So I prefer no experience, it's actually a benefit to me because we do things very differently than what others do. And so I don't want anybody coming with bad habits. So basically we're just looking for people that are willing to learn, want to do things the right way, and then just take care of tenants. All the houses are in Gary, so we come back with Gary. Okay, so 100% are all work Gary. Basically, we're just responsible for, we teach you systems. My background is from corporate America, so I was with Dell's Corporation for many years, and I was in charge of the rest of the United States Bank. And everything to me is secure, corporate analyzed, so we have systems around it. So that's why it's pretty easy to train and that kind of stuff, because we just train you on your scripts, guarantees. You just got to be somebody that's willing to listen and follow directions and just follow the scripts and follow whatever it is they're supposed to do, and be able to have relationships with the tenants, because our goal is to keep them in the house as long as possible. So responsible for finding new tenants, all the leads come in, all the agreements, go through the application process and get right over to any tenant goes in there, then you're responsible for the inspection of the house, make sure that the house is clean, doing drive-bys, like sure they're on the yard, and just creating a relationship with them so that they give them some gifts every day, good things, that kind of stuff. It's all 100% special cases. Some people have houses that you can manage. Some people
I was going back and forth on
the list was like 30 houses. Some people can manage 75 houses. So it's a pretty big draft.
Oh, yes, I had to go back and forth with my point.
So they could be anywhere from 25,000 a year on the low end to 70,000 on the high end. It's all commission based.
So I was
Some people say manage your property. Like take some property, am I putting somebody else in the house that I'm managing that will quickly start? Yes. Well, at first we already have properties people in them. So it's a combination. Because there are new properties coming in every month. We have new properties coming in because we're rehabbing properties. You certainly say have done. We've bought over 200 houses in tax sale. So we're rehabbing those houses. So that every time one of those houses finishes, basically
Okay, now that you cannot do without me.
Our project manager will like to add on because every time he finishes a house, this goes from the apartment to property. That's where they fill the house and they show us.
Anyway, the camera's on, so I'll be like, yeah, I'm like doing like
Okay, well, first we sit down and do an interview. So we do a formal interview, get to know each other a little bit. It's something that you're good with, something that you're good with, that kind of stuff. I'll go to what your personality type is, personality type, that kind of stuff. But let's just assume that it's something that we're both interested in, that works out. And at that point, you come on, you do some training with my wife. Yeah, this is my wife here. She like trains with some phone calling and stuff, appointments. We also have actually inside the company we didn't call them property managers. I have to say that because they're more than property managers, but inside the company that's called concierge. So they're supposed to be concierge to the resident. We don't call them tenants, they're called residents. So they're concierge to the resident because their job is to take care of the house. That's why they're called concierge. But it's really a property manager. So you either work with Dan, Misha, Gavin, training and that kind of stuff. Like Kamisha came on board. When did Kamisha come in? 5 or 6 months ago? Yeah, probably about 6 months ago. So first we like to bring them in and they go into the position first, which is basically just calling, going to appointments, showing the house, getting an application. Then we do that for a little bit. And then once you do that for a little bit, then you get paid commission for building the houses. And then once you do that for a little bit, then we transition to the actual houses. We have to make sure you like it. So Kamisha came in August and she got her first properties November 1st, I think. So it's probably about 3 months that we actually started getting properties, and then it just kind of grows depending on how many they can handle, or how many you want to handle. What's your schedule? There is no set schedule. It's all based on whatever we need to accomplish. So there is no set schedule. It could be 0 hours or it could be 100 hours. It just depends. You have a bunch of houses vacant, so you got to build it. So you just have requirements that how should not be vacant for 7 next 100 days. If the house is turning, you got to follow up on the and the houses be on the list to make sure they're doing their job. You're responsible for following up if something breaks down in the house. You're supposed to fix it. You're supposed to follow up to make sure it got done. So it's minus 53 degrees outside. You have 2 heaters go out. And obviously it's going to be a little busy with that if nothing breaks down. So it can vary drastically. So you never gain on your time, you gain on your results. So if the tenants are happy, wait, and anybody gets paid, you get paid for placing somebody, a brand new person in there, you get paid commission for placement. You get paid 50% of the management fees that are brought in. So that's why managing footage and making more and more bad. That's nice passive income. So every time they pay the rent, you get 10% charge for management fees. So let's say the rent is $800, the management fee is $80. Half of that goes to the property manager every month. So it's like $40 per property. So that's just kind of like the base, and then you get the commission on placement. And then every time there's a renewal, like you get a renewal lease every year, you get $400 for every renewal. So if you manage like 20 properties and they all renew, you just have 20 times 400. It's $8,000 to sort of know. What do you mean? $400 for a replacement, unless it's either 400 or it's 650. Depends upon the house. It could be either or. So most of them are 400. It's 650 or if it's a lease option agreement. So we have some of those as well. Those are 650. Okay. Now, one thing, do you have current income now, or do you have? So you have a job now?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you looking to do this on the side, or are you looking to replace that income?
What's the how to do this on the side?
Right. Okay. So what kind of hours do you work there?
So right now, early morning, so I do 2 full-time hours, insurance broker in Michigan. So I usually work early evenings, late evenings, and then I do small gigs like 40.
Okay.
And so just for that consistent.
4 a.m. in the morning to 8? Wow, okay. That's early.
I'm up early. I'm not.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's early. That's not
enough for me. You're not exhausted at 8 a.m. after all those kids?
You know, oh no, there's
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, the rowdy in the afternoon after school, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm in listening to audiobook or music or something while I'm
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Trying to think, because we're actually leaving town this weekend, and we won't be back till March. I actually live in Phoenix. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So, but I've been here. I've been investing here since 2015, and then we were here full time for about 2.5 years. But we just kind of went back to Phoenix. Now I kind of go back and forth every month. But we're going out of the country next month. We're going to all over for a month out of the country. So I'm here. So let me get your information.
Yeah.
Do you have a card or something?
I do not.
Okay, can you just text her or whatever? Well, she'll text you our information, and then I'll be in touch, and we'll figure something out. So let me put some thought to it as far as.
So our phone number is
219-649-1078. And then kindergarten. Got it.
Sounds good. Okay, so if I can't do it in the next couple of days, what I may do, if it's already produced, I come back on March 11th, and I'm here for a couple of weeks then, so maybe we can set something up right after I get back, like on March 12th or something, when I come back. So.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay, so just let me kind of look at my schedule. I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, that's great.
Great. Thanks, Doc.
Bye, Ken. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about my voice.
No problem.
I wanted to do the night, so that place was so long. So for the top, pretty much your voice doesn't hear it.
How are you?
After it's like 20 minutes louder. So when I was with that, you guys, and I knew as it was happening, I've been very yeah, I didn't go to work today.
Yeah, well,
just because I was like, this is going to take a shot. Yeah, that's where I was like, someone's contract is yeah. And then I was like, I should have heard that.
So I did have a question for you. The 250 complex, that's basically where we stay. That's where we stay. So that's under contract again. That just comes last year.
The same buyer.
Yeah, because they started remodeling it. Yeah, it stopped. That's why. I don't know. Well, it's under contract.
No. Yeah, I think the family decided they're I know, I think we had a fire at one property. Well, you know, when it's that level, $100 million
Four pickup like right. You know, you got 20 million. Yeah. That level, get away with an 8% return on Southeast is good.
Right. First time here.
I've been coming here for
Wow.
Oh, Justin, he's the big guy right there on the wall.
Like to break it.
Oh, thank
Like I said, the first time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no,
amazed
that's
how you guys broke down.
No, it's a little. This is like that's probably like 2 years down the road. But I guess like somewhere.
I just got my first
Garrett's where to make the money, man. That's where your return
on investment is there.
It's true. And you deal with different fiscal policy. It's not Illinois. It's not, Gary housing pays pretty well too. It's like
They get busy. Thanks. Ready to go for the next one. Yeah.
So
the third and the fourth one. Start late. They say, Greg.
Greg's man.
Oh, really? Just started. I'm already yeah, ready to see how we get down with it. Nice. Congratulations. Let me rub the shoulders and find out what.
That's all it is, man. Networking, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Network is your network.
Absolutely. Was that done from this group?
Casey from U.S. Bank did the financing for it. Yeah. Yeah, I've been talking about Casey 2 years ago before anyone even knew about him. No, he's a good guy. Tough bank to get a loan with, though. One of the hardest.
The bank is called?
U.S. Bank. Yeah, you see them. They're all over the place, probably.
I was looking at People's Bank.
People's Bank's a good bank. Yeah, it's a good bank. It's a good local bank.
You got properties
yeah, I have a surplus of properties, so I'm loading some. I'm gonna load like 15 of them.
For something like that, maybe I'll spend a little bit more money.
These are full gut rehab. So these are the houses, because I bought the crap of the crap because I get them cheap, and I have a whole team that rehabs them and stuff, so I'm not afraid of it. These are the houses that you probably can't see from the street. These are the houses that may or may not have a roof. These are full gut rehabs. They're not livable. So if you're comfortable with that, you gotta have your crew ready. Well, yeah, this is not something for somebody who should start with the first project. So I just let everybody know that. This is serious rehab work. So, you got my card though?
I got your card.
That's 2 years.
What do you do?
It'll take us 2 years to finish. I do apartments. How you doing?
How are you? See you next month.
Okay.
See you.
Yeah, these are full. Yeah. All new electrical, new plumbing, probably new roof, new everything. I mean, you're basically building a house. Yeah, that's what I do with them. I buy and hold. I don't flip them. These you don't want to flip it.
too much work and not enough work.
Well, I have. I could. I mean.
That's not you got a portfolio of 20, 30 years, you refinance, get your down payment.
Well, generally
That's what I was
speaking,
gonna
yeah.
say.
I mean, there's exceptions to everything, and there's people that are flipping and carry.
Yeah.
But then you got
that's not where I would go. I mean, I've been doing this business for 21 years. I've flipped several hundred, hundreds. So
yeah, I saw that the rate is like,
yeah, but you gotta have, it's gotta,
that would not be my first choice.
Not the case, it's gotta be
All right.
I want more clarity. I do not. That's what I wanted to know about.
If all your income is rich, oh, yeah.
So he's on water.
If I was an LLC though, apartment company's an LLC, so I'd have to have one on my LLC.
Yeah, but it's still housing.
Yeah.
Cool. Alright. It's still gonna take you
right. Yeah, I mean, 21 years, but still pretty generally speaking, what I tell people is that I know everybody wants to start with a flip. That's probably not the best place to start. Probably the best place to start unless you've got a bunch of cash. You have a bunch of cash.
Yeah.
Well, then probably that's probably not your best place to start.
That's what I mean. I've never
That would be my best
considered.
advice. I would
you've been pretty much, it's just really
don't take very much
into that, you know, you get that ball rolling.
Yeah, and you can kind of get some experience about talking to network like crazy. Find out who vendors are, find out who's buying what.
He doesn't want to be he wants the card seat, it's like a dude. So it's like 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So you already got one half an equation. You already got one half an equation. Just come to network meetings.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So with, yeah, I mean, this would be something, I mean, obviously, this is
yeah, most people should start.
I do.
Unless you have a bunch of cash.
I do like workouts.
And somebody that's stuck fixing the
yeah, it's pretty far. It's a little far for workouts. I don't
risk the little capital you have. I know HGTV makes it so easy.
It looks nice out there.
Real nice.
Yeah, it looks very, like it's well taken care of. Is it, I mean, those things, one bedroom. I mean, what's the, I mean, this is pretty accurate, so you should rent it out. Is there a height limit?
Yeah, no, it's all market.
It's all market.
I asked, yeah, they had built 20,000, 30,000, they're as high as 40,000 out there. Don't go chase China. The best price I can give you is network, find people that are successful, that are doing it, that take the time to do whatever. I actually live in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where my primary residence is. So I've been investing there since 1999. But I started investing here in 2014, so we go back and forth. But I'm not here. I see more time.
Yeah, most of them.
Brand new road.
I won't be back till March. So I can't really help too many people.
Technically, is everything
But find people that are helping you guys. That's my business. That's way
they built back in the rent, included the rent.
yeah, they're going to go bit higher rent to cover those things.
It balanced well. I would
Yeah.
Get your application. Then you start learning about what, you know, how you get your income. Maybe try work with them if you want to go out and when you get shops and things like, all right, we're approved for $500,000. No, put 100 grand down. 500.
I used to run it like that for 4.5 years.
Yeah, that's what they're requiring.
Yeah.
Alright, so then I did talk to Keith.
Just like you.
Like, oh, I don't really mess with them. He's like,
You'd be shocked at how many people.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he's looking for
not one person's ever said that.
worth like 6 months.
Not one person's
Yeah.
ever said that. Just take that.
It's anything that's worth it.
Don't be surprised by it.
But really, just comes up with it. 100 point.
Yeah.
He's the guy that
You can't put
those are real estate.
You just network.
Really stuff. You go here, people, they got charged you easier. What is it? First American. There's like
that's
20.
one of the best things
I'm always
anybody-
like, don't touch it. They do this 6.5%.
Oh.
Honestly, I don't know.
They're easier to deal with, they have a higher rate.
They're easier to get along with.
I don't know. You'd have to.
Far away.
Yeah, so
I'm in a bunch of
That's just how it works. They're gonna throw the kitchen.
The most successful people aren't afraid to share. If you're with somebody and they're afraid, they don't want to share it.
How much money you have.
But I can already say now, if all your income is flipped, they're gonna be like, you're taking an account. It's capital gains.
It's a massive, it's like a big investment.
No, it's like, it's all tax.
Yeah.
You don't really know. It's not, one flip, 1 year is not the same.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of
Really, your income doesn't,
And the rental property,
because,
rental income.
just because you flipped 100 houses last year, you gotta, if you're in Florida, obviously if you're grossing $700,000, then they're gonna, then they start making shit happen. If all your income is not, you got W2 at 100 grand, you got this, got it, like buildings outright, stuff cash, your house is cash, because you got all this debt. There's that rate.
Yeah, my guy it all said, if I use him, yeah, that's something else.
Find someone there's a lawyer that doesn't, that's who you gotta get the money from.
So I can get, go to Keith and say I found somebody that's not, they want to mess them up right now, and then she goes, what am I doing at the table, technically?
You're bringing the truck to the client. It's between you guys.
Yeah.